So, it's time for us to actually go into the metaverse and, deal with that magical stuff that has a deadline and all. But first we need to go to school, because
First, we need to grab a seat on the subway.
even on the days when we actually have to do stuff, there's school to contend with. Today, we're lucky. We get to sit down on the train, which means we get to read.
Yeah, save my leg benders for later.
And since I actually did pick up some books, I can actually use this time slot for something. I'm just going to use it for the Yonta Wanderer, that magazine we picked up while cleaning the room, because it only takes one reading attempt to finish, and it unlocks quick travel to several locations in Yonganjaya. I'm not actually sure you can visit those places without reading this, so that's a question.
What happens if you actually walk to it?
Um, I don't know. It might not actually open if you don't know about it. This place is a bit funny about that. Like, you can go to the gym, but until you reach a certain rank in Ryuji's confidant, you can't use the gym. you know? It's very strange.
So that's kind of silly. Like, you pass by a restaurant and want to talk about, sorry, you haven't read the local magazine about tourism. You can't come in here.
Seems like a strict requirement to enter a restaurant.
It's more like Morgana being the voice of your internal thoughts is all like when you go to the gym. Oh, why would you want to go to the gym when you can work out at your house for free?
I get that. It's just one of those gameplay story segregation things.
Yeah. Well, there's also the fact that you might not necessarily know that the batting cage even exists, because it kind of blends in with the rest of the condensed buildings over in Yonganjaya.
Yeah, there are always batting cages around in order to have meaningful conversations with people.
Mature-looking girl and fashion-looking girl. Or, fashion-loving.
Well, she looks mature, alright.
She looks fashion. No, I didn't say she looks fashionable. I just said she looks fashion. Yeah, more conversations about things that you can see and visit around town. You get a lot of that if you talk to and listen to the NPCs.
Also, I just noticed it's 420. Heh.
Ha 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 ha. Oh my god, I think someone made this video of
Yeah.
420 Persona. It's just really ridiculous.
Ryuji the pot fiend and all of that.
Although apparently all the voice actors had a panel at Anime Expo, so apparently Ryuji's palace inside of his head is a Burger King.
Why don't we get part-time jobs? Well, I don't feel like it.
Oh, come on, Ryuji. It's much easier to get a part-time job there than in the real world.
And Karusi's like, I'm gonna have to do that part, aren't I? If only we had a party member who was like the heiress to some rich company and could pay for this stuff. Somehow I get the feeling that even if we recruit such a person, I'm still gonna have to work part-time jobs for cash. Oh, well. Anyway, the people that you can talk to around the school have two main purposes. One, they do occasionally provide some flavor text to the current plot missions that are going on.
It's almost like they know I'm the main character.
Well, they're not talking to the main character. I'm just eavesdropping again.
Eavesdropping by shoving your face into their conversation, yes.
The other thing that they sometimes do, as I've mentioned before, is that they sometimes just tell you about things that you can do around the town, which changes up as you go through the year, because new things will become available as you progress down the calendar, and other new areas just open up at specific points in the game. There's actually quite a lot of places to visit that we haven't seen yet. And stuff that we might not necessarily be doing is the diner is one of the better places to boost your personality stats, because not only can you go there to get some studying in and increase your academics, knowledge, whatever, by 2 points or so. You can also get a single point in a second personality trait at the same time, depending on what you order. You can be an asshole, order coffee, and sit there studying all day on just that 1 cup of coffee and the refill rule. Which apparently takes guts, so you increase your guts by being rude to people. Karusu's not the nicest person in the world. Or you can like get specific menu items like the nostalgic steak, which increases your kindness, or the I think there's a specific kind of tea that increases your charm, that kind of thing.
It's like a fruit tea,
Yeah.
or something. Something sweet.
All I know is that I always feel kinder after I have a really good steak, because it puts me in a good mood.
You can also visit the Maid Cafe once Akihabara opens up. Yeah, they put a Maid Cafe in this game.
Well, on the bright side, at least it's an Akiha.
It's kind of funny. Well, it's kind of funny for me specifically because I frequent a couple of Persona roleplay forums, and like between games, we were just sort of talking about how like the forum had a maid cafe as a long time running joke, but we were thinking of getting rid of it because it was kind of immature and dumb, and we were like, you know, this doesn't really fit the mood to Persona. And then along comes Persona 5, bam, maid cafe. Okay, thanks.
You better get the Pirate Legends so you learn about Gold Roger.
Anyway, yeah. This is the library, and we can pick up books about our characters' personas here.
You rented a DVD for Lupin the Third.
Whenever you study at the library, though, you have to listen to people gossiping about you, which is, well, not pleasant. And sometimes it ruins your studying. But you do get some guts for studying there. Not that I ever did it. The diner's just better in every way. And if I want guts, I can get them on purpose by going to the diner, so... meh.
And it never stops. The library's always gossiping about you.
Straight into the end of the year. God damn.
Is there nothing else to talk about but me? I mean, I know I'm handsome, strong, charming, got lots of guts, and I'm perfect in almost every way, but still.
It's my animal magnetism. Must be the cat I'm carrying around.
And the fact that I can see all of my actual individual stats and know that I'm perfect.
Well, you know, they don't know the cat's there, but it's an animal, so it must be magnetic.
How does no one notice the cat?
I was going to say, oh, they know. They know.
The cat pops up and looks over your shoulder every time you talk to someone. And you'd think Kamoshida would have taken the opportunity to kick you out early, but, I guess...
I think even he's too bewildered to actually act on it. It's like, what?
You're lucky I'm a cat person.
He likes the pussy, alright.
Hi-yo!
Oh, God.
Too soon. Anyway, yeah, the hideout mechanic, as I said before, is kind of like the Junes food court in Persona 4. Blech, Junes food
Every day's great at your school rooftop.
There is some kind of poetic irony to the Phantom Thieves setting up shop in the place that Shiho jumped from, but it's really easy to find, and it's so easy to find, in fact, that I'm pretty sure that's a fairly common fan fiction hook for this game. Is like Haru overhears the Phantom Thieves way early in the year, and stuff happens because of that. If it's not a popular fanfiction hook, it probably should be, because it's the obvious thing that should happen here. Someone should walk up onto the roof, overhear these goobers talking, and get involved.
Well, today might be okay considering it's raining, so
shenanigans.
people may not want to go up. But
yeah, today's raining, but that's just today. You can come up here any old time.
Couples gotta make out.
Well, I mean, technically students aren't allowed up on the rooftop, but that didn't stop Ryuji from calling you up here, like, the first day, just to have a chat.
What's up? Nothing.
Anyway, this is the point where Ryuji is a slob, and we get to pick a code name for on here. I actually kind of like this exchange. Like the two guys are like, "Hey, you're like Catwoman. That's kind of hot. You know, you're Catgirl. You're sexy cat or kitty woman." And on is like, "That's dumb. You're dumb. I'm gonna call myself Panther because that's cool."
What do you want to be called then?
Something better than just a little cat.
She says this while looking at Morgana.
Yeah, so we already have a little cat.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool, doesn't it?
Huh?
Why does Ryuji not get this?
Because it sounds more ferocious.
Somehow, I get the feeling that this line
She's a
Morgana said.
cougar.
I get the feeling that this line that Morgana said was different in the Japanese version because I don't think that would make much sense in Japan.
Let's go.
It was probably something with a similar effect.
Probably. I'm curious as to what it was, though.
I'm sure we could look it up. It's just one of those things where Japanese humor does not translate very well to English humor.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Not even slightly. But anyway, since we are officially free to explore the dungeon now, it means it's time for a Velvet Room tutorial because, well, they just had to slow you down one more time.
Just want to play the game.
And right now, Ryuji and An and Morgana are just seeing him having a seizure.
Whoa, sorry. Guess I was on a snooze cruise.
It's exactly that, though. It happens like in every Persona game since 3, where nobody but the main character can see the Velvet Room anymore, because only the main character goes into the Velvet Room. It used to be different. All of the Persona users would go into the Velvet Room with you. In Personas 1 and 2, you would actually be able to talk to your party members in the Velvet Room, and they'd have different things to say at different points in the game and all of that. It's kind of funny, but
I just want a clip of Ryuji waving a hand in front of Kurusu when he snaps out. He just goes, "I'm glad you're okay."
The thing about the Velvet Room, though, is that it actually there's no meaning for time when you're in the Velvet Room. So even though you space out when you go into the Velvet Room, you're probably only there for a few seconds. So
Hyperbolic time chamber.
So, as far as that goes, you'd probably only be spaced out for a few seconds, and it wouldn't be all too weird, which would explain why nobody ever seems to react too strangely to your leader just randomly spacing out outside the dungeon.
As long as it doesn't happen during the heist.
Well, this is the heist, but still.
You know what I mean.
It would be inconvenient if it happened in the middle of battle, which is probably what happened in the Persona 3 anime movie, because the Velvet Room just sort of pops up in the main character's head at random instead of having a door. And like in the middle of a boss fight, like the main character of the Persona 3 movie just goes into the Velvet Room, and Elizabeth talks about bonds, and suddenly he has a new persona, because that's how that works in that movie. Yeah, the Persona 3 movies were promising at first, but they aren't great.
So when do you think we'll eventually be getting a Persona 5 anime?
There is an anime.
I mean, there's the little
Dawnbreakers
episode he came out with
or
before the
something
game
like
came out.
that.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah, there's an individual story
Cash
where they
Cow
solve someone's problems with the Phantom Aficionado website. I haven't watched it fully, but I've seen some clips of it on YouTube.
Does it look good?
I like the animation. I don't know what the full story's like. I don't know what shadow they're trying to change the heart of and what the motivation behind that is, but it takes
For
place...
something that came out before Persona 5, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it takes place after they've recruited Yusuke, but before Makoto.
Well, if it doesn't have Makoto in it, I'm not interested. Best girl. Anyway.
My waifu's not in it. I'm out.
Anyway, yeah, as I said in an earlier part, if you want to avoid having to fuse Arsene during this tutorial, you gotta pick up every persona except Incubus, which I did. As you can see, I can fuse Pixie with Jack-O-Lantern to create Incubus, and that allows you to keep Arsene.
That's what I did.
Yeah, which you might want to do, because if you fuse Arsene here, you'll have to call him back from your compendium at level 1. And it takes a long time to actually manually level up your personas through battle. So, yeah. But since I actually am going to wind up calling Arsene from my compendium later on anyway, I don't particularly care about fusing him away. So I'm going to create Agathion, which is a persona that they borderline force you to make for a reason. It's also the Chariot Arcana persona that gives you.
And there's a random Star of David on it.
Yeah, well, it's not random at all. It's just what Agathion has been since forever ago. But it's also it's a persona that's Chariot Arcana, which means it gets a boost from your confidant with Ryuji. Whereas the Incubus persona doesn't get a boost at all because you don't actually get the Devil Arcana until way later. So pick your poison, really.
I know we just met, but I'm gonna kill you now.
Yeah, you get this cutscene with Arsene the first time you try to fuse him away, and it's basically just him saying that he'll be back, because you do get to see Arsene again later on when you get to the point where the flashback happened. But yeah, he'll pop up at 2 specific later points in the story, regardless of whether you have him or not, just for story
I'll
reasons.
always be with you.
The thing about this fusion system is that it's the same, like, it's functionally and metaphysically the same thing that happened when you fused personas in every other game that Persona fusions happened in, but because of either something to do with Igor or something to do with your main character's psychology, the visual effect of it is this execution thing.
Gruesome.
Yeah. And it's like, you're not actually killing your personas, they still exist within you and all, but the idea that you're killing them off to make new ones fits Karusu's cynical frame of mind. Whereas with the other 2 wildcard users, it was kind of just, hey, we're merging these things together. And it
Now
creates
kiss.
something better. It's like power of heart. Whereas Karusu, he's still got the same power they do, but it takes a less optimistic shape because he's a less optimistic person.
It just fits the Velvet Room rather nicely, and I like that all of the different fusion types have different methods of execution. It's not all guillotine. There's electric chair, there's if you screw up fusion, if Igor screws it up like he does in other games as well, the fusion accidents, the twins will actually bring out a chainsaw and kill them that way.
Yeah. Incidentally, that's another thing that's worth noting, is that it was established in Persona Q and all that, and I think as I think possibly in I think Persona Q was the first game to do this, but the Velvet Room attendants, the women in blue, can actually perform persona fusions, but in Personas 3 and 4, it was always Igor who fused your personas personally. In this game, he's not doing that, possibly because he can't.
He doesn't want to get out of his chair. It's a very comfy chair.
Well, he never gets out of his chair to do the fusions either. He just sort of plays with cards on the table.
All right.
I never thought about it, though, honestly. So that was... I like that attention to detail. I like that little observation.
Yeah, it's a fun little detail. I like it. Although I kind of expected the fusion system to change after a certain point in the game, but it doesn't. It keeps doing the executions thing, even though the dialogue surrounding it does change at that point. So I'm going to assume that the execution and in fact the prison motif of the Velvet Room right now is part of what Karusu's mindset is.
Why couldn't we have that Persona 4 dancing all night disco room?
Just have that going on, like, in the Velvet Room while Karusu watches from behind bars. It's like, God, so annoying.
Now he just like gets up in the middle of the night, crawls out of his prison cot, gets up on that little table by the bars and just bangs on the ceiling. Shut up! Turn it down. Some people are trying to sleep
here.
You're the only one here.
I want someone to draw that.
How fares your progress in our game?
We were playing a game?
Well, yeah, it's also it's a plot, and it's part of the plot, and this has been part of the Persona series plot for a while. I think like.
No, I'm actually more literally. It's like, oh, were we playing like Uno or something?
Yeah, I think like the entire impetus for Personas 1 and 2 was that Philemon and Nyarlathotep are having a Crash Bash tournament, and
that's one way to look at it.
Depends. Was it the pogo stick game or the ball bouncer one?
This persona?
I was actually referring to the opening cutscene of Crash Bash, where it's literally Aku Aku and Uka Uka arguing over whether good or evil is cooler.
Oh, right, the really laggy cutscene in the beginning.
Yeah. It's sort of like that sort of two gods having a contest over the fate of humanity kind of plot.
And if you win with Cortex, Uka Uka destroys the world.
Anyway, I'm going to make a bit of a mistake here by withdrawing a few too many of the DLC personas and filling up too many slots to really show off many of the personas that you can get in the first dungeon. But
why do I have to spend money to summon personas? What use do you have for Japanese yen?
It's one of those rules where, like, the Velvet Room can't just give you stuff for free. Although
no, I get that, but why do you ask for Japanese yen? It's not like he walks around downtown Tokyo and goes to a ramen shop.
Well, for all you know, they might. I mean, last time we saw Theodore, Margaret sent him out for soda. Well, she pretended to send him out for soda. It was basically just an excuse to let him explore the outside world, because he was too dumb to actually take initiative and do it himself. But...
So look at all these Persona 3 and 4 personas.
Yeah, the DLC personas, which you can get for free the first time you purchase them from the compendium, if you got them. They're all, well, they're all incredibly broken, and since you can get them for free, getting them in the early game will basically destroy the first dungeon. This is Kaguya. Kaguya is interesting. She was supposed to be Marie's persona, because Marie, in Persona 4 Golden, was originally supposed to be a party member. It didn't happen, but Kaguya did get used as Marie's persona in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, so that's a cool little callback. It's nice to, you know, see Kaguya return as a persona design in a game where I can stand to use her, though. Because Kaguya was your persona reward for maxing out Marie's social link in Persona 4 Golden, and I neither like Marie as a character nor the dungeon you get for completing her social link, so...
Is required.
You didn't like all the poems she kept leaving in the Velvet Room?
Marie was so unneeded. She was just sort of inserted into the story, and you can tell she was inserted into the story because there's, like, no flow to her place in the plot whatsoever.
Well, she wasn't in the original, so...
It's like, you know, in the original we got this hidden true ending with Izanami, and in the PS Vita re-release we've got this super true ending with Izanami and her alternate incarnation thing.
Oh, by the way, Maria's part of Izanami.
You know, like, what the fuck? Why? And it's like, you know, she just sort of becomes besties with every member of the party at some point. So it's like, she's literally a fan insert character with a super important destiny.
Yeah, kinda.
I like her character design, but that's about it.
Well, her name's Maria, right?
Marie. Just Marie.
Marie. Well, that sounds similar to Mary, as in
Mary.
Mary Sue.
Aww.
I like the idea that the vanilla version of Persona 4 is a timeline where Marie did not get saved in her dungeon. Because they specifically say in that dungeon, if we don't help Marie now, all memory of her will be lost forever, and we won't remember her. Like, all the things we've done with her will be erased from our memories. And she's not in Persona 4 Vanilla, eh?
Yeah, it was a slightly clever idea. Unfortunately, the character kind of sucks.
Kind of want to forget.
Well,
Teleportation, yeah.
now we can use the quick travel points in the dungeons.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, every time you reach a safe room, you can quick travel as easily as you do around town. From one safe room to the other and back to the entrance if you need to. There's always a safe room right before the boss area, too. So, in the first few dungeons, you don't even actually have to do any fighting between the final quick travel area and the place where you fight the boss. So, the, dramatic life will change music piece that plays when you're on your heist can be a little bit anticlimactic if you don't have to run back that last night to get any locked treasure chests. Which I did the first time through, actually, but it's like this dramatic music kicks in, you run a few feet, and then the music stops because you're dragging the treasure out and fighting the boss. It's not until, like, I think Kanashiro's dungeon that they start throwing in mandatory fights on heist night. So
Kanashiro's the vault. I think it's with Okumura. Or actually...
Yeah, it's the Space Palace.
Actually, no, I'm thinking of Futaba, because Futaba, you actually have to go through this area.
Yeah. No, wait, yeah, Futaba is you have to go up the platforms or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, it's a good thing that guy's back was turned. Yeah, you guys just stand there.
You're not the main character. I don't care about you.
Lure him over for me. I'll jump him. Alright, so I'm not actually going to be editing out any of the random battles in this first dungeon. Don't worry. I'll be editing them out in future dungeons. Because it might get tiresome by the end of this first dungeon, but, well, to be honest, the first dungeon is kind of short, and it doesn't really take all that long to get through, and the enemies change up fast enough that I don't really need
Short,
to
we're here for another 3 hours.
Well, short, all things being relative. The later dungeons get more complicated and take longer to get through, because there's just more stuff to do to get to the end. Whereas, Kamoshida's palace is just kind of a place that you get through. The only part of this dungeon that I have to cut out is this sequence of backtracking toward the end where you get roadblocked by a bunch of traps and you have to go back a couple rooms to get the keys to turn the traps off. Yay, I killed some monsters and got some plant bomb. Why did Kurusu think, hey, plant bomb, I should put this in my pocket?
Why is that squirrel carrying 147 gil and a magic fire ring?
Well, it's not even the same logic as that, though. Plant bomb is just a material that you can harvest from shadows, and that's...
I'm just saying, it's an RPG, don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, but you see, this is the kind of thing that they do to get around that question. But it's like, why am I harvesting materials in this specific game? I don't even know I need... Oh, wait, yeah, I do know I can make... infiltration tools with it. Maybe Morgana told me the plant bomb would be useful. It's like in
This is a stick up.
in Final Fantasy 12, you get all kinds of loot from the random monsters you fight. But there's a reason for that, and it's because they didn't want you to ask the question of why do these monsters have money, so they give you a bunch of random items to sell. You actually do get money drops from human enemies, though, so that's a thing. By the way, holding up for money doesn't get you. I don't think you'll ever be able to get items if you hold an enemy up for money, but I think you will get experience for that one enemy, and you will also get most likely more money than you'd get by killing them. So it's worth doing. However, if you hold an enemy up and talk to them and successfully negotiate with them, any other enemies that were in the battle will just sort of walk away, slide off frame while you're not looking.
Yeah.
So you won't get any XP for enemies that you don't kill.
It is a valid strategy, though, if, like, you're low on health and you're fighting enemies that are going to probably kill you and you're really tough and you're like, how do I end this battle really quickly? I know, I'll negotiate with the one persona I've already captured. Boom.
Well, it doesn't even need to be a persona that you've already captured. You can negotiate with any enemy, and if you ask for an item or money, you are at no risk of being denied. Unless they give you something, and you press for more, which is something that you can't even do at this point in the game. You have to unlock the Sun Confidant to get that option. You can actually keep saying, what, is that it? Once you get that ability, and if you're lucky, they'll just keep giving you stuff. But eventually they'll get mad and just say, fuck you. You get to keep everything that you got from them up to that point, but they will also attack you again. And whenever you fail in negotiation, the enemy gets a free shot at you. So you want to be careful about your negotiations, especially on hard mode, where getting hit hurts and you're guaranteeing that you're going to get hit.
So I want to confirm something with you guys, because I don't know if this has ever happened to you. I played this game on normal mode, and I found whenever you're just, like, hiding behind an object, you seem to be invisible, even if they're walking behind you. Am I crazy?
Yeah, it's actually,
happened to
yeah.
me too.
When you're in cover, the enemies will not be able to see you, even if they should be able to see you.
Yeah, I figured, because, like, sometimes I would, like, accidentally fumble and get behind cover in front of them, and I was like, oh shit! And then they just walk right past me, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yep.
I think the tutorial message actually does say that you just can't be seen when you're in cover.
At all.
So, pro tip, players.
This $9.36 belonged to my light wife, but I want you to have it. Okay. Thanks.
Why was your wife randomly hanging on to $10?
Why were you randomly hanging on to $10 after your wife died? That's not exactly much of a keepsake.
This picture of Alexander Hamilton really reminds me of her.
Wait, I'm coming up with a headcanon explanation for that. His wife gave him $9.36 for his birthday because she couldn't think of a gift. And she died the next day, so he kept that $9.36 for posterity.
What a really specific amount.
I would love to go to a wedding that's about two demon horses getting together.
Anyway, now we actually do get to use that cover system we were just talking about, because they don't let you use it until you get the tutorial, and it's like the one tutorial that triggers partway into your first real dungeon session. Would have been nice to have the cover system earlier, game. And, I don't think I really need Morgana to tell me that I can hide behind sofas.
Why didn't I think of that?
Karusu's a bit dumb. Morgana hasn't authorized you to use your hide function yet, Samus.
Remember, Karusu, this is a sneaking mission.
It is, though.
Every mission's a sneaking mission.
As I said before, if you get spotted by enemies, you really don't... You drive up the awareness meter, and if you drive that up to 100, you get kicked out of the dungeon for the day. Now, every time you kill an enemy without it being aware of you beforehand, you will actually lower the alert meter a bit. However, when the alert meter is at 0%, you can launch ambushes from any direction, and unless you are holding down the sprint button, it will always take enemies a couple seconds to notice you. So if your alert meter is at 0%, you can pop out from behind a corner, whether you're in cover or not, and just wreck their shit. It's actually quite satisfying. You do want to keep that alert meter at 0% though, because sometimes enemies can turn around unexpectedly, and if you try to attack them while they're unaware of you, but it's from a direction other than behind, unless the alert meter is at 0%, you'll just sort of swing your sword at them and begin the battle normally. And you'll still get the alert lowering effect of defeating an enemy while they weren't aware of you in the field, but you won't get the extra turn at the beginning to hit them before they hit you. You do want to take advantage of that alert, of that preemptive strike, though, especially on normal. If you use preemptive strikes on normal, basically you'll be able to, if you're good, take out every group of random enemies before they actually have a chance to do anything to you, and that's how you save on healing spells. On hard mode, it just means that you can kill the enemies and they'll hit you a few less times along the way, though.
Yeah, that's still useful.
It's still useful. It saves you some.
On,
it
what are
saves
you
some
doing?
Healing, but. Oh, that's actually a cool mechanic. Occasionally, while you're exploring dungeons, one of your party members will zip up to a corner before you, and if you hide in the same corner, they'll position themselves around your character model rather than actually clipping through you, which is a nice detail. And what the function that this serves is that your party members will actually warn you when they see shadows around the corner. So you not only have your mini-map to rely on, you have the verbal warnings given to you by other party members. So that's cool.
Very useful.
It also leads to some nice in-dungeon moments where, like, you go up to a corner to peek around, and Makoto's peeking around with you, and it's like team stealth. Woo.
Okay.
This game's just super stylish. I remember when I first played the first dungeon, I must have stayed on the victory screen for at least like 2 minutes, just bopping my head to the music, watching him run in circles. I just love how stylish this game is at all times.
Incidentally, why does every bookshelf in this goddamn castle have a volleyball on it?
Well, it's run by Kamoshida.
Yeah, but why does he keep them on bookshelves?
He's a sports guy. Why do sports people do anything? I don't know.
Is that symbolic for his, like, PlayStation 4 NHL collection or something?
He did it for a touch of class.
His EA Sports games. They manifest
Very.
in his mind as actual volleyballs, even the football games.
I just want to remind everyone who comes to my castle that I control a soccer team.
Alright. Time to pick up a map. Now, they introduced this mechanic early game where there's usually like 2 parts of the map, and you think it's going to be a bit of a hunt, but no, the map just sort of throws itself at you as you progress through the dungeon. So there's no real challenge to finding this map. In fact, this might be the most intricate protection that the map ever has. In I think the second dungeon, the first part of the map is just this brochure that you find at the front of the dungeon in a magazine rack.
Visit
Like-
Kamoshida's castle for all your torture volleyball needs.
Ugh. One thing that I do like about the map and mini-map system is that it actually does show you the footprints of where you've last and most recently been.
But does it show you every step you've taken in the last 200 hours?
Well, that would just be confusing. One thing that I do that I do think is necessary for maps and mini-map systems that not a whole lot of them have is some means of, you know, telling at a glance where on the map you just were, so that you don't get disoriented trying to follow it.
Yeah, the map does a good job reminding you what doors are locked. They'll put a lock on it. They show you what hallways you haven't been in by highlighting them red. You know, I was never lost in this game because the map system's really good.
I think we've gotten to this point in gaming where most developers know how to do a basic map.
You would think, but there are some awful maps out there.
That's why I said for the most part.
But the map will also put a little X over a door if you try it and find that it's locked. Not all of the doors in the dungeons actually go anywhere. If you find a locked door, it's just there for flavor. It's like, there's a door, it doesn't go anywhere, it's locked. This is a place in the palace that you can't go. The locked doors that you actually can go through are actually doors with like bars over them and that sort of thing. Something that you can open with a mechanism. There isn't much in the way of key hunting here.
Enemy ahead. Be careful.
Whoop, whoop.
I'll reveal your true form.
The cover system makes sneak attacks way too easy at times.
Feel like Batman.
And very satisfying.
Satisfying for sure, yeah. Woo. I always found Incubus's design, like, hilarious. Because he's got this massive Blackadder tier codpiece on. Has anyone seen Blackadder?
Nope.
Can't say I have.
It's a comedy series by, you know, starring the guy who played Mr. Bean.
Oh, Rowan Atkinson?
Yeah. It's really good.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of like this Monty Python-ish medieval times story about this like guy who, through the ages, him and his descendants are like always these mad supervillains who can't do anything right. It starts out like in medieval times, and then later.
Are you sure it's its own series and not just Despicable Me?
No, it's not.
Because that was basically the point of Minions. So.
Well, this is way older.
Fair enough
and
then.
Way better. Yeah, I said it.
And before Minions existed.
Just to highlight how much I like Blackadder, it's one of the few old shows that I actually went out of my way to buy the DVDs for back when those were released. So.
Why is there a vase up here?
I feel so alone. Nobody knows what I like.
Aw.
Now, I've gotten used to holding down the run button, because if you hold down the run button, what will wind up happening is that you will auto jump over ledges. But you can't hold down the run button in areas where Karusu automatically crouch walks. So, you can't do that up here. Incidentally, I was spotted there, which is why there was a spotlight, but I managed to finagle my way around the chain to delay the guy from getting to me, so that I could trigger an ambush anyway. You're on a roll, Ryuji. By the way, I don't recommend playing quite this recklessly the first time through the dungeon. I can only afford to do that because I have SP Adhesive 3s, and in Dungeon 1, if you have SP Adhesive 3, your MP costs are basically nothing. Like, I think every one of those level 1 elemental spells costs 4 SP, and whenever Invigorate 3 kicks in, it restores 7, so I'm using up like 1 SP per battle. It's pretty great.
Okay.
And no one heard us biting on the chandelier.
Well, there's no one down there to hear us, so...
Ah, so the old no one can notice if there's no one to notice.
Oh, wait, there are some soldiers wandering around down there.
So they didn't hear us?
But yeah,
It's a video game.
Chandelier didn't even break.
This is basic Phantom Thief stuff, though, running around on chandeliers. Now that we're up to part 7, I'm kind of regretting not naming the character Kaito Kuroba.
I don't watch anime. Who's
What?
that?
Well, this is something that never really got localized or translated even in manga form, but before Detective Conan, Gosho Aoyama had another series that he did. It was called Magic Kaito, and it was about a phantom thief in a really stupid top hat who did magic tricks. It ran for about 3.5 volumes, and then Detective Conan happened, and that took over Gosho Aoyama's life for a couple decades. And
It's still taking over Aoyama's life.
Still rules it today. Occasionally, Gosho Aoyama either does a crossover episode where Kaito Kuroba, Phantom Thief Kid, shows up in Detective Conan and has a little scuffle with Conan, or he'll actually do a new chapter in the Magic Kaito manga series. A couple years back, Magic Kaito finally got its own anime series for 1 season that covers, I think, pretty much all of the manga. So that's cool. It also has some pretty good OPs.
Thank you for that anime lesson.
Although, they seem to have lost confidence in Phantom Thief Kid being able to hold up a series on his own, because occasionally there's just this random Conan crossover in the middle of his series. And it's like, okay, sure. I guess we can establish some sort of chronological order based on that. I mean, when you think about it, Phantom Thief Kid can't go on heists quite as often as Detective Conan finds random dead bodies around, so I guess that series just takes longer.
Yeah, it's almost like crime follows a detective around.
To give you the idea of what sort of show Magic Kaito is, though, like one of the things that frequently happens is that, you know, Kid Kaito, someone will suspect that he's the Phantom Thief, like his anime best girl pal, Aoko will detect it, and he'll have to do some magic wizardry so that, like, some, illusionary magic, not actual magic. There is actual magic in Magic Kaito, but Kaito can't use it. Wow, this is all sounding more convoluted than it actually is. What I'm explaining, and I should probably just try and probably should just not be the one to explain anime to people.
I have not followed a thing you said.
He'll have to go on a date with Aoko to prove that he's not Phantom Thief, while the Phantom Thief is doing one of his heists. So,
you've never seen Clark Kent and Superman in the same place, have you? Have you?
yeah. Except Kaito doesn't have super speed, so he'll do this thing to make Aoko think he's sitting right next to her. He'll go on the heist, and then at the last second, at the very end of the movie, drops through the roof and replaces his replacement, and just acts like he's been there the whole time, and nobody notices him bursting in through the roof.
Why can't he just be like Clark Kent and have a robot duplicate of himself? Just for such occasions.
He has that?
I think he actually does have a sort of a robot duplicate thing.
Yes, he does, specifically for when Superman and Clark Kent need to be in the same place.
No,
at
I
the
mean,
same
I think
time.
Kaito has one.
Oh.
And it's like the first scene in the manga where a robot version of Kaito is talking to Aoko, and he's hanging upside down from beneath it just to screw with her, and out of nowhere in the middle of the conversation notes what color her panties are. Yeah, Kaito is that kind of person. It's obnoxious, but that was the kind of humor Gosho Aoyama started out with. He got much better at that when he got into Detective Conan, thankfully. Actually, that reminds me, there is actually a point where, like, Gosho Aoyama in the manga did not take the obvious opportunity to go for that humor, but for some reason the anime added it in. I'm not really sure why that happened. I'm trying to think of what the people writing that adaptation were smoking at the time, because it really did not need that moment.
Registration?
Eh.
You'd like to register this?
But then, maybe they were smarter than I give them credit for, because for that chunk of the anime, they just sort of replaced everything plot relevant with something totally not plot relevant, because they didn't think the plot was ever actually going to go anywhere, and just wanted to keep it episodic. But that just led to this awkward point later on in the anime where they realized, oh, we actually do need to adapt the plot stuff now, so they just sort of grafted it in.
Good old anime producers getting ahead of themselves.
Well, they didn't get ahead of themselves. Like, they were afraid they wouldn't have any real plot to go with. So the first thing that has anything to do with the black organization is this train episode where there's a bomb on the train, and the bomb is set by Jin and Vodka, the two guys who turned Jimmy Kudo into Conan.
I get it.
Yeah, but in the anime, they replace Jin and Vodka with two random guys who just happen to look like them, and Conan only realizes that at the end of the episode, and goes, oh, well.
So they're not Gin and Vodka, they're beer and wine.
They're just random villains in black suits who happen to look like Gin and Vodka from behind. But, so everything to do with plot has that sort of twist in the middle where it doesn't have anything to do with plot now that it's the anime version. And this continues right up until, I think, the end of Season 5, past the point where the English series stopped localizing at all, when Sherry shows up. That's the point where they realized, okay, plot is going somewhere, we can't ignore this, otherwise Detective Conan fans are going to cut off our heads. So like directly before the Sherry episodes, they reinsert the mystery where Sherry's sister was introduced, and then they do the Sherry episode immediately after. So they kind of screwed up this dynamic where there was an episode involving the black organization very early on in the series, and then like many volumes later, Sherry enters the scene, and surprise, it's this character that died in this earlier black organization episode, and she's connected to Sherry now. Which is something that Detective Conan does a lot, where, like, when plot pops its head back in after a couple years, it's a callback to the last plot episode. And oddly, it works because the plot episodes themselves are so few and far between that you never actually forget the details of what happened there. They feel like special events when they finally do happen.
Be careful.
I like zipping around corners. And yeah, the Gosho-Ayama tangent is officially over.
Hooray!
Woo! We're back to talking about Persona.
This one's weak to electricity.
Why are there half horses floating around?
I don't know, but this demon design always really got me.
Or those like strings, guts.
They do a pretty decent job of blending the monster designs with the anime designs in this game, but sometimes you can really tell that it wasn't the same character designer who designed them. Because Kaneko and what's the name of this character designer? I keep forgetting. The guy who can't do the necks. Well, they have very different styles, and you can tell just by looking at their character designs. Because Kaneko does character designs for most of the main Shin Megami Tensei games, like Nocturne, I think was the last main one he did. And he has this style where character designs are kind of simplistic in the way they're done, but like they also have very defined lips for some reason, and feet that look like mutant abominations if you bother to look down at them. Which is unfortunate because I think like maybe the main character of Nocturne has bare feet. I'm not really sure. It's hard to remember. The main character of Nocturne, there was this high school kid who got turned into a demon, so he goes around shirtless with these sort of glowy tattoos all over his body and a horn sticking out of the back of his neck.
Wait, we got a devil fruit?
Yeah, devil fruit and soul drops are two items that very commonly drop from demons if you get items from them.
Don't drink it, you won't be able to swim anymore.
Devil fruits and soul drops give you very small amounts of SP and HP. So they're basically the limited usefulness items that you can get from negotiation, but if you negotiate with a lot of demons and get a whole bunch of them, well, you can dump them all on your characters. Oh, I tell a lie, devil fruits heal 20 HP, which is actually fairly useful at this point in the game, at least if you use them out of battle, but it's not a particularly good healing item for any point later on in the game. Stock up on a bunch of them, sure, but, you know, it's not really worth wasting a whole battle's negotiation on when you can just get money instead.
Which you get probably more useful things with anyway.
Yeah. I mean, money adds up over time, and using negotiation a lot to get money from that last remaining demon in a battle is actually a good way to boost your earnings a little and, you know, afford better stuff later on in the game, but ugh. A lot of the demons don't necessarily give you good items, but they will occasionally give you stuff like revival beads. So it is actually a good idea to occasionally, you know, ask for items and note down which demons have the good stuff. And the same demon won't necessarily give you the same item every time, but they do have set item lists per demon that you need to keep in mind. And I think one of the abilities that you get from one of your scanner characters later on, or maybe it was Makoto, I'm not really sure, lets you know what the rare items each demon will give you is, so you know which demons are worth trying to negotiate with for items.
We just picked up a silver fork.
Yep. Well, if you found a silver fork, you'd probably pick it up too, because it's made of silver. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Or you could just eat something.
It doesn't matter that it's a fork. It's silver. Woo, okay.
I'll reveal your true form.
Dining room. I like the atmosphere in these dungeons. It's like, even when the construction of a dungeon is relatively simple, like Kamoshida's castle, the environment keeps changing it up so that you feel like you're in an actual place with some kind of structure to it, which I think is really key to keeping things varied, or at least establishing an illusion of variance, because sometimes you just can't get more than that in a game. I mean, when you think about it, pretty much every dungeon in most Final Fantasy games is just a bunch of hallways, but they're, very nice-looking hallways, so you don't really think about it too much. You fight the monsters, you go through it, and it feels like you're going on an adventure. Sometimes the most important thing to establish is the illusion of something in a game.
Well, this whole game is about illusions, so
No, that's Persona 4.
this has them too.
No, I mean, Persona 4's theme was people seeing what they wanted to see, so it was actually about illusions, in a sense.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm yawning.
Oh,
Oh, that's where the other guy went. He
yeah.
just continued patrolling around the room while we were fighting.
Well, here's the thing about the way Persona 5 handles enemies in the field is that there's no longer that mechanic Persona 4 had where if you fight an enemy group too close to another enemy group, that other enemy group will invade the battle afterward, because that was annoying. Instead, what it does is, like, after you finish a battle, there is a few seconds where the other enemies on the field just will not see you, so you have time to get back under cover immediately afterward. Yeah,
And you missed the last one.
I just used an overpowered spell from one of my DLC personas, and it missed one of the demons. Fuck. I guess that means I can negotiate with the last one, you know, take his lunch money. How much is he gonna give me? No,
I don't want to talk.
I didn't ask for you to join me. Okay,
Didn't ask for this.
$5.32. It is Hoagie Fest month at Wawa. Nobody who lives
Too
in
bad I don't live near a Wawa.
Nobody who lives in a state that doesn't have a Wawa is going to get that. Okay, Hoagie Fest is when all the 10-inch sandwiches are $5. So, yeah, that was just enough for a Hoagie Fest sandwich. I could go for one of those right now.
And all you had to do was hold up an incubus.
The things I do for lunch.
Your true form.
One thing I will say is that there's basically no reason to ever waste a time slot on doing jobs for actual money in this game, though, because as easy as it is to get the jobs, like, unless you're going for a social stat specifically, you can get more money just by using that same time slot on mementos. Maybe night jobs are worth doing for a little extra cash here and there, but that's only because you probably did something during the day already, and you can't go to mementos at night for whatever reason.
Yeah, I've always seen jobs both in this and Persona 4 as just social stats. Like, I always went to the hospital for my braveness. I always went to the flower shop for my kindness. I didn't really care about the money. Like, the money you make from enemies is really good, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't want to work for money, you want to work for experience. Good, I don't have to write up a tax return for you.
I put that on my resume. I get hired every time.
Here, what's wrong with the economy today?
Fucking millennials.
Ruining everything while also not buying anything.
Millennials ruining the job market.
I don't know about you, but I buy a lot. Woo! All out attacks.
Jeez, Ryuji, your neck.
Stylish. Yeah, but you could say that about every character drawn by this guy. Ryuji's got it good. His neck is hidden.
Good work.
I can feel it.
Junpei's neck is like always in his character portrait in Persona 3, and it looks so weird.
Holy helmet.
Alright, got ourselves a snuff soul.
This door
Dope.
doesn't look like it opens. Let's try somewhere else.
Of course, once you've got the maps, you can always tell which doors don't go anywhere because they just don't show up on the map. Like, apparently Kamoshida's castle draws its maps so that it knows which doors don't open. Sometimes negotiating around these goddamn corners is such a pain in the ass because the game's idea of what corner pops in next is in the sequence is bizarre.
Yeah.
Ah.
Ugh. Okay. Yeah, remember how I said sometimes the cover system is a bit jank? This is where that kicks in. But I found my way to an enemy nonetheless, so, yeah.
Still, with the knowledge that you can't get seen while in cover, even if they're behind you, it helps.
Yeah. It's like, that's probably why you can't get seen in cover, because there are times when popping from cover to cover is just not ideal at all. So they removed the opportunity of that legitimately screwing up your game and just made it something that might waste your time a little. I mean, Atlas isn't the best at making the most flowful experiences when it comes to their games, but they are at least good at designing their games around the janky elements that end up in there, so that none of them ever really legitimately annoy you or bother you while you're playing. They just sort of like, ugh, this headache again, and then you move on. Which, you know, if you gotta have annoying stuff in your game, it's better to end up that way than things that legitimately slow down the player and make life harder for them.
All right.
And I know someone's gonna misinterpret that as me defending it and trying to pretend it's not a flaw. It is. It is a flaw, definitely. But it's not a huge deal breaker flaw, you know.
If you compliment anything, you obviously like the game.
You can like the game and critique it.
Sure.
Tell that to the internet.
Oh, god damn it, that's not the court I wanted to jump around. You just pretend not to see me for a bit, and I'm gonna shuffle around this cover object, and there we go.
Yeah, you still have lots of training to do before you're Batman.
I actually watched Mask of the Phantasm very, very recently.
Blu-ray coming out.
Oh, they're making a Blu-ray for it.
Yep.
Yeah, they announced it like
When is
recently.
that? When is that coming?
This month, I think.
Excellent. I need that yesterday. Mask of the Phantasm is excellent.
I knew what you were going on about that.
Yeah, there's this whole sequence where Batman is remembering when he went out as vigilante Bruce Wayne for a little while.
Yeah, pretty Batman.
Yeah, where he was like going after muggers and robbers and criminals for practice, and they're just not afraid of him at all.
Because he's just some guy.
He's just some guy in a mask. Yeah, it works really, really goddamn well.
Well, that's the thing from Batman Year One, so.
Yeah.
All right.
I confess I've only seen Mask of the Phantasm once, and I saw it in theaters when I was like 6 or 7 years old, so I haven't seen it since. I don't know how well it holds up.
It
It
holds,
holds up
very,
really
very
well.
So it holds up pretty well.
Well, mind you, it's part of the DCAU, so of course it holds up really well. But
Well, not everything in the DCAU holds up really well.
Like, the only thing I remember is who the Phantasm is. That's the only thing I remember.
Yeah. The Mask of the Phantasm was a story from that era, the Batman animated series, where they really played up Batman as a detective, though. So it works really well in that regard.
which is nice because ultimately they had like very little budget. Which is probably why the last part of the movie with the Joker and all that is where all the actual animation went to.
Anyway, I told a lie earlier. The cover system was not the last tutorial. There's actually one more, and it's right here. Occasionally, you get enemies down to low enough health and they're all on their lonesome. They'll start begging for their lives. This is the closest thing that this game ever gets to the mechanic the mainline Shin Megami Tensei games have of demons just occasionally talking to you out of nowhere. Anyway, this enemy won't actually die no matter how many times you wail on it. Instead it begs. When a demon begs, there are two things that you should know. One is that if you ask it to become your persona, you don't actually have to go through the question and answer session with it. So it's a good idea to get demons begging if you want them to join you without a fuss.
So useful.
The other thing is that I think that their options for giving money and items will actually be more successful than usual. Like, yeah, I got 723 yen this time. That's on the high end of what this demon will give you.
And we should say, like, personas that are, like, on your level, because if there are personas that are, like, 3 or 4 levels higher than you, they'll never join you no matter what.
Oh, yeah. The demons that are higher leveled than Kurusu will never join you. They'll say, oh, well, yeah, you're too low level. Here, have an item instead. Which has always been true in Persona and in Shin Megami Tensei. You have to be on their level before you can control them. Except, in this game, there are ways to get There are ways to get personas that are higher level than you. For one, the level requirement only counts in Fusion for the persona's base level, so your social link can actually level up a persona to a higher level than you are. The other thing is that as you level up your social link with Caroline and Caroline and Caroline, the twins, as you level up your social link with them, you gain the ability to pay cash money in order to unlock personas that are of a higher level than you, something that the previous two protagonists could never do. The fee is astronomical, so I don't recommend actually doing this too often, but you can, in fact, fuse personas that are of a higher level than Kurusu. So if you're trying to complete your compendium and don't want to grind levels for 6 years, grind money instead. The option is nice, but the other thing is that personas that you buy from the compendium,
There's a safe room.
you can buy them at any level and use them at any level. So, during your New Game Plus, while Kurusu is still level 1, you can still use your level 70-something Izanagi, like I'm doing.
All better than going to the game corner and grinding 9,099 coins to get that Jutini.
Well, you're probably still going to wind up doing that. Except that there's no game corner, it's just mementos.
You don't want to play Poké Slots?
No, I don't want to play Poké Slots.
Okay, guys.
2 more demons bite the dust.
Oh, one more. Now we're going to get the other one.
This guy gonna beg? Is he gonna beg?
No.
Ah, he's not gonna beg. Beg for
Nope.
me! Oh. That didn't work.
You were
Spoken
using
like a true dominatrix.
Yeah, that's say you're using the on in the tight leather suit and whip.
I don't think a dominatrix is supposed to kill their client. You got a long way to go. Sorry.
He didn't say the safe word.
He didn't. That's true.
Whenever you get to a new safe room, you can actually have another conversation with your party members about the progress you've been making in the dungeon. This is something that I recommend doing every time you get to a new safe room, because until late in the game where it becomes, well, something that doesn't actually trigger a new conversation every time you get to the safe room. I don't know, maybe the writers were running out of time at that point. But you actually do get some nice little conversations between party members about what they're experiencing in the dungeon and what their thoughts and feelings are about where they are. And I think that these provide a few nice little character moments. Nothing on the tier of actual social link cutscenes or anything, but it's a nice little thing to have.
What are your thoughts?
You can also ask your party members about what their condition is, but this will always trigger the same dialogue, and you can tell what your condition is by looking at your health bar and SP meters on your own, so this option is kinda pointless.